this morning we've just been going through all the parts that need to be sent for powder coating. So here we are, everything's loaded up in the van. Wherever there's a thread that we don't want the powder coating paint to get into, we've put a bolt in there. Also masked off any areas that we don't want to be painted. So that's all prepared, ready to go. The rear end is there. I put the cap or the cover on the back there to stop the inside getting blasted and painted. And also in the workshop right now, I'm just dismantling these leaf springs. So I basically just heated up these clamps, bent them over, and then there's just a nut and a bolt that goes through. So I'll dismantle them and get rid of the bushes. Not sure if we're going to use these yet, because we might just buy new ones. But as we're having a whole van load of stuff going in, we're going to throw them in anyway. The rest of the other stuff, like the air intake box and stuff that goes under the bonnet, that's going to be painted or plated. So that will be the next thing, just to go through the bolts and stuff that are going to be either plated or like the black coating. So that basically is all we can do on the Nova at the moment. So we're just going to have to send this stuff off and then wait for it to be blasted. So that will be the next chapter. What do we do in the meantime? Well, we have a new project in the workshop, and it's right in front of me. You want to see it? Here we have a Triumph TR6. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is this worth restoration? Well, this was actually Oliver's father's car. So it has great sentimental value. And I was a little bit skeptical at first if this would be even worth repairing. But the more I've looked over it, I think the base is actually okay. And the chassis on this car is separate from the body, so we can lift the body off of the chassis. And I've had a look underneath, and it's actually not as bad as I thought it was in the first place. Ollie actually started stripping this car down, he said, when he was about 15 years old, and he's now an old man. So that was a long time ago. So he's obviously taken the front and rear wings, bonnet, those bits and pieces, stripped the interior, and yeah, that's as far as it got. It also has a really cool and rather wonderful hardtop. But unfortunately, I don't know if you can see in the video, somebody had stood on the roof to gain access to something. So that's a shame, but I think with a little bit of love, we can get that back into shape. So let's take a look over the car and see what the good bits and the bad bits. Well, there's quite a lot of both, really. So let's start. Okay, so Ollie had removed the rear wing, as you can see. And if you look, this doesn't look too bad under here. And the chassis is actually it looks surprisingly solid. We'll obviously know more once this has been blasted. Then it gets a little bit uglier the lower you go. And you can see here that the sills have clearly given up and seen better days. I mean, even here, look, it's like a tea bag. And moving on to the front, it doesn't get any better. These squares here have actually been cut out to house speakers, because the speaker is actually still in place on the other side, and as you can see, the wires there, so we'll weld those up. I'm hoping, but I have my doubts, that once it's been blasted that these have any strength. But as you can see, this is actually a lot of spot welding, similar to the E-types that I've done. So to replace a panel like that, it's actually not that big a deal, but I would rather not have to replace the A-pillar because then you have the door alignment and, you know, everything can go a bit wobbly. But we'll cross that bridge, we'll see what happens. Inner front wheel arch doesn't actually look too bad. This is quite perforated, so there's going to need some work there. So then if we look in the engine bay, this is a straight 6, and actually it's fuel injected. One of the, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe these TR6s were one of the first production cars to have fuel injection. So you have 3 throttle bodies here. Fuel injectors have been taken out, as you can see here. So, and I've driven a few of these and they actually drive really nice. I do like the way that they drive, and they're a good looking car. So I'm excited to do this. If we move on the inside, this is the original colour, this yellow. Or would you call it yellow? I don't know. But it's a kind of iconic 70s colour. It screams Austin Allegro. But I actually quite like it. I think it's because it's a period colour, I think it's actually quite cool. And we're not sure what colour it's going to go back to, because I believe Oliver's father bought it when it was yellow. Well, in fact, I know that he did. And he had it painted many years ago. So we were actually discussing this morning whether it's going to go to the original yellow colour or it's going to go to this British Racing Green, because Ollie was also saying that the Nova is going to be a similar British Racing Green type colour. So to have 2 similar, I don't know, I personally think it should go back to yellow. And Oliver's kind of coming around to that idea, but we'll see. We're a long way off from that, so maybe not concentrate too much on that at the moment. Okay, moving around to the back, I just popped the boot lid open, and you can see here the elements have had their way with this. So this is a bit of a tea bag, but I think it's probably savable. Maybe we can look at getting some replacement panels like this if they're available, and sometimes it makes a lot of sense just to replace rather than repair. And as you can see, spare wheel is still in place. But I mean, if you look at all these kind of panels and the corners of the boot, you know, that's when I'm starting to think, well, actually, it doesn't look too bad. You know, the seals are definitely the worst. And then we have areas like this. This is where the hardtop has sat. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously the dirt and everything, elements have got underneath and rotted that away. So maybe if the roof hadn't been on it, we wouldn't have that. And you can see like here, but going back to the interior, apart from lots of nuts that squirrels have nested away in here, I mean, these floors don't look bad. I mean, the inner seals as well really don't look that bad. So I'm being very optimistic here, but I do think that this is definitely not a basket case. I mean, I've restored a lot worse cars than this. The E-Types that have been in my previous videos, they were, if not equally as bad, but worse than this. So shall we lift it up and have a look underneath? Right, with the car in the air, we can get a better look at just how rotten these outer seals are. And then obviously at the bottom of the A-pillars, they've also given up as well. But I'm hoping that at least the upper inner seals are not too bad. And the bottoms of the doors don't actually look too bad. I don't know what they're like inside. Yeah, I mean, they seem pretty solid. So as you can see underneath, it has a separate chassis to the body, like I said, and it's bolted in place. I have a feeling we're going to be cutting a lot of these bolts off because I doubt that they're going to come apart willingly without a bit of persuasion. You can see that it has independent rear suspension, rear wheel drive, and these are these nice cast aluminium arms that it has here. One thing we did notice, it looks like it's had a brand new exhaust up to the mid section. The downpipes still have the ticket on them, and it has the like transportation paint on there. So that's quite funny. So it's obviously, I think, may have had some work done on it and never got back on the road. So yeah, I mean, looking at these chassis rails, I mean, it's looking pretty okay in my opinion. So I think the way forward with this project is to get as much off of the body. There's a rear wing on the other side. Take the doors off, take the bumpers off, the rear bumper at least, as much out as possible. And then I think we will take all the bolts off for the body and try and lift the body up, which shouldn't be too much of a problem. I think we can do a series of jack in and then put them on axle stands, similar to what we were doing with the Nova. Maybe lift the body up and then roll the chassis out. Then I'll make a frame for the body, similar as what I did with the Nova, so we can have it mobile, put it on wheels and hold everything in place. The body can then go to the blasters, and then we can start stripping the chassis, removing the engine, rear end, all of that stuff, and completely strip it down to every nut and bolt, and then send all that off. Exactly what we've done exactly what we've done with the Nova, and hopefully when we get this out, then the Nova will return, and then I can start doing body repairs on the Nova. Today is Saturday, and I thought I'd get a cheeky couple of hours in on the Triumph. Yesterday, me and Ollie actually went to a show called Interclassics in Maastricht in Holland, which was absolutely fantastic. Also met a Finnish friend of mine there, so it's a really, really good day. Today I thought I would just grab a couple of hours on the Triumph, because yesterday the company that we sent the Nova to for blasting informed us that it was ready to be picked up. So that doesn't give us a lot of time to strip or start on the Triumph. So on Monday we're going to go and pick up the body and then drop off the other stuff like the rear end, the front subframe, etc. All those parts, we're going to drop those off on the way. But we also need to go and get the trailer again to be able to pick the Nova up. So Monday, that's going to be occupied with that. So I thought I'd just grab a couple of hours today to take some parts off. So I think I'll start with the doors. Both doors are still on, the rear bumper and the rear wing on the other side. So if I could get those off today, I'd be quite happy. And then we'll probably just put this back to the storage so we can do the body repairs on the Nova. So let's get it on.